Turning back to the day's politics, we're joined by our poly panel today. We've got Patrick Gorman, Labor MP, and Jason Falinski for the Liberal side. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Now, a big story today has been Gladys Liu. The government's being accused of, Labor's being accused of running a smear campaign against Gladys Liu in particular. So let's start with you, Jason. What do you make of that? Is it a smear campaign?
Well, I mean, I don't include Pat in this, and there are a lot of people in the Labor Party I don't include in this, but I think the left has a general problem with racism, and I think this is being played out today. I don't think Michael Daly's a racist, but when he went to Katoomba and said, your jobs are being taken by Asians with PhDs, he thought he was playing to the crowd. And unlike the right, that understands the problems with extremism, I don't think the left has worked that out yet, and this is part of the problem we're observing today, and this has been massively overcooked, and it's gone way over the top, and it should stop right now.
Geez, that's a big call to just say that the left is racist.
Yeah, it is a big call, and I think we should actually just focus on the issue at hand. I mean, I could sort of just take the red meat that you've put out there and sort of dive on it, but the issue is that there have been conflicting statements by the member for Chisholm. She hasn't been clear throughout the week. Labor simply asked for an explanation to the House. That's quite a reasonable thing to ask for, so to sort of jump to that.
I'm really sorry to interrupt. We have a division in the House, so you're both going to have to leave me.
Is this one Labor called?
Yeah.
They've done that deliberately, see?
Sorry, this is the joys of hosting a show on a sitting day in Parliament.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, see how you go. We might get you back up once you're done. Welcome back. Well, we've got our panel back after an abrupt division. You guys abandoned me. It was a bit sad. But...
It's all about the vegan terrorists.
Oh, well, yeah. Very important legislation.
It was.
Thank you for coming back, but I will give Mr Gorman the right of reply because you didn't get to respond.
Because both of you are from Western Australia and this is an outrageous favouritism that's going on here.
Well, I'm sorry, it's the best state in the country.
Oh, see what I mean?
Another New South Wales person trying to take something from Western Australia.
Sydney,
take
you
know what? We gave you 12 senators. Enjoy them.
OK, you lobbed quite an accusation at Patrick Gorman before about the left being
not at Patrick.
Racist.
No, I've got to be clear, not at Patrick.
Well,
at the left.
The left, come on.
I think you're trying to amalgamate a whole range of issues that are not anywhere near the discussion we're having today.
Sure.
The discussion about the member for Chisholm is what are the facts and will she state them to the Parliament? That's all that Labor is asking for. It's very simple. She's chosen not to do that, and I don't know why she won't make a statement to the Parliament, but I think Parliament's concluded, we've started the adjournment debate. It would have cleared up a lot if she had just come and said exactly what happened when she was a member of these organisations, what her relationship with them was. That would have cleared everything up.
And isn't it just as inflammatory to say he's part of a movement that's inherently racist as to say...
Did I say that?
Well, they said the left is racist.
I didn't say it. I said that the left has a problem with racism, and I stand by that.
But on the same...
I stand by that. I'm sorry, it's just the truth.
This is from the party that does a deal with One Nation.
We didn't do a deal with One Nation. Nice try. We didn't. No, we didn't.
In Western Australia, the Liberal Party did a comprehensive preference
Well, then I could say the unions did a deal with the Communist Party during the 1940s. I mean, how far do you want to go back? I mean, the left has a problem today with racism and institutional racism.
But that aside, the Liberal Party has a problem today with Gladys Liu and these accusations.
Well, the accusations. Stop making the accusations.
Well, what about...
Because they're not true.
So you deny
that... So Patrick wants... of course I do. Patrick, what am I denying?
But ASIO has been looking into Gladys and recommended against her pre-selection.
Sorry, who did?
ASIO.
I don't believe that to be the case.
You don't believe those reports?
Well, look, I'm not a minister. We can't comment on that sort of stuff, and that's the sort of rumour mongering that Mark Dreyfus was trying to attempt in Parliament today, which no one in the government can deny, because no responsible government, no responsible executive will ever comment on security matters. And the fact that you've just repeated that on national television, you know, compounds the problem. And compounds
in the Herald Sun.
And compounds the evidence. Oh, the Herald Sun, well, they should stop it too. I mean, unless there's actual evidence of this, stop repeating
They've got
rumours.
3 sources.
Who are they? We'll do that. Who are the sources?
I read that article quite closely.
Oh, did you?
It was on the front page of the Daily Telegraph.
Were you one of the sources?
No, I did note that 2 Victorian Liberal members of Parliament had confirmed this information. It was by James... you'd have to ask James Campbell that. He's a very well-respected journalist, a friend of this program and many other programs on Sky. This didn't come out of nowhere. And I think you know that, and I think every member...
I don't know that. I'm not going to cast aspersions on another Member of Parliament with actual fact. This is just rumour, innuendo, smear and fear, and frankly at the bottom of it, racism.
I'm worried about how you take this as a national security question, because you've got either a lie on the front page of a national newspaper, which
has never happened before.
I don't think it's the case here, but I don't know, and I wouldn't know. I'm not part of the
executive. But she could have clarified this if she got up and made a statement.
So she's made a statement. She's issued a statement.
Which contradicts her earlier comments.
Yeah, of course. And there's been an admission that the interview was clunky. She misspoke.
No one cares if it's clunky. People care if it's incorrect.
And it was incorrect. There's no admission to that it was incorrect. She's put out a clarifying statement. The Manager of Government Business, the Attorney General of Australia, went into the House today and described the issues and laid out the facts quite clearly.
But
I mean, what more do you want?
It's not a racist issue. She's not being targeted for the fact she's Chinese. She's being targeted for the fact she has associations with organisations that are linked to the Chinese government, which is the Chinese Communist Party. That's a huge concern. We're not just talking about any ethnicity. This is the biggest superpower in the world that's known for interference in foreign governments. So
you're saying because she was a member of friendship associations that have links to the government in China that happens to be communist, something, Gladys Liu's a communist agent.
Well, the fact she didn't remember it for 12 years.
Yes, that's right. Really and she's clarified that statement. The Prime Minister's clarified the situation. The Manager of Government Business, the Attorney General. I mean, what more is there to see here?
There was one more thing.
Except casting aspersions on the fact that because Gladys Liu is an Australian of Chinese background, born in Hong Kong.
But nothing to do with that.
Really?
There's one more thing. She just needs to walk into the House of Representatives. The adjournment debate is still going. She could get one of those spots and she could clarify all of these matters herself in the House of Representatives.
There is no
bottom
to Labor's demand.
What the Prime Minister says.
So she puts out a statement. The Prime Minister faces a press conference and clarifies the situation. The Manager of the Government Business in the House of Representatives, the Attorney General of this nation, under parliamentary privilege, goes out and sets out the facts.
OK, I think we're going around in circles here. Maybe we'll move on. Peter Dutton's caused a bit of a stir today with an interview he did on 2GB about the Biloela family, saying that they had anchor babies because they thought that would help them stay. Patrick Gorman, I know that's a term that's been used in America quite derogatively because that's where it actually works.
You have caught me out. I had not heard about that interview that he conducted. That is an awful term to use. If he wants a rational debate on his portfolio, then he, as the responsible minister, needs to be very careful about the language he uses. They are two children born in Australia. They have the right to be considered as to whether they should be allowed to stay here, and to use those sort of terms, that's just... Jason wouldn't stand for that either.
Look, I don't, like Patrick, know anything about this interview, and I would say that the...
So his argument is that they knew...
I know what the argument is. Okay. I guess what I would say is that our hearts go out in any of these situations to people who are clearly feel that they want to stay in this country. All of us want to stay in this country for obvious reasons. We've made it clear that we need to deal with this process under the law. We've done that so far. They are free to apply to return to Australia under the laws of this nation. The Minister has said he will deal with that according to the law. I can't comment on an interview I didn't hear, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right, but I can tell you that's what he did say. It's all on the record, we had it before, but...
I'll tell you, having just heard it, he should apologise. That is just disgraceful language. Simple as that.
When it comes to what was happening in Parliament today as well, there was 2 questions put to David Littleproud about whether climate change is man-made or real. Are you going to put on the record? Is it man-made or real? Man-made or naturally occurring?
Climate change is occurring.
Yeah.
Clearly, humanity's actions on the planet are contributing, if not the major... Well, clearly the major driver of climate change. And David Littleproud said as much at the dispatch box today in question time.
He did say he was interrupted. We did replay it. He did have a few cracks at it, but it seems like he misunderstood. What do you make of the misspeak?
Climate change is human activity caused. That is a fact. That is what all of the scientific evidence tells us. What we've really seen with Minister Littleproud is that this government is all over the place on climate policy, all over the place on energy policy. There is no...
So, what's your climate and energy policy at the moment? Under review.
It is under review. I think you wouldn't find anyone in the Labor Party that doesn't believe in climate change, doesn't believe that we need to act. And this has been a decade-long fight in this place. I was a staffer here when we were fighting about the carbon pollution reduction scheme, or a normal emissions trading scheme. There was a great time in Australian politics where that was a bipartisan position of the Labor Party and the Liberal Party. I would love to get back to that sensible, rational debate about climate change where we accept the science, accept the need to act, accept Australia has a role and do something about it.
When it comes to the discussion happening in the Labor Party about what your policy will be, there was that reporting that there is that push to aim for a net zero target. Do you support that?
Ultimately, at some point, you are going to need to get to a net zero emissions. The timeline of those things is part of the discussion that we're having at the moment.
And the cost.
And the cost, and there's no...
How much do you think it would cost?
Well, you look at these things over the long term. The states that are looking at this are talking about 2050 as their goal, and it's a number of state governments of multiple political persuasions that are looking at this. These things do have costs, but there's also the cost of inaction. The cost of inaction is that we might make a disastrous mistake about the future of this planet, and I'd rather err on the side of caution.
What do you think about a net zero target? Should the Liberal Party be setting one?
Look, we've got a lot of good policies in place about reducing our carbon emissions in line with our agreements in the Paris Agreement. I think the problem that you have is that if we start getting ahead of the pack, we deleverage our capacity to go and negotiate at Paris Mark II. We want to be in a position where we can actually get the major polluters of the world on side to start reducing their carbon emissions.
You also got to attend the negotiations. The Prime Minister's not attending the climate change conference in New York when he's in New York. So don't tell us that it's all about having a good negotiating position if you're not even going to rock up.
Well, we are rocking up. The Australian government is rocking up to these negotiations.
Who's attending?
We're an active participant.
The Prime Minister's not attending, that's all I know.
OK. I'm sorry, I'll speak to him about popping his head in.
I do believe
that make a difference?
I believe it is.
My whole electorate would appreciate it. Thank you very much, Jason.
I'll let him know that you will appreciate it.
Well, I think one of the things that's on the hook for the Australians is we can't send a leader unless we're going to make an announcement. We can't have a leader speak unless you're going to commit to a further reduction target. So that's really... Is this Labor wedging the government on this one conference?
It's very normal. That is part of UN Leaders Week, that conference. It is not unusual that Australian Prime Ministers...
So which other leaders are attending on that basis?
I don't know. It's probably confidential at the moment. I'm sure there's a brief in the Prime Minister's office that would tell us.
Well, I can't think of one other nation that's committing to carbon emission reduction targets, or further reduction targets, sorry.
I've heard Germany today, yeah.
Germany might, but anyone else?
I think the announcements can also be about climate change financing. They're not necessarily just announcements.
Well, we've got great stuff to talk about on that.
Well, he should attend.
Well, OK. I'll let him know.
Finally, just to wrap, what did you guys make of this sitting week? Maybe we'll go to Patrick Orban first. How did you think the government performed?
Very well.
Look, I think they came without Jason performed very well. The rest of his colleagues
came without an
economic plan, no plan to do anything about Newstart, no plan to get this economy moving, and we leave with no plan. We didn't even get an explanation from the member for Chisholm. It was a pretty disappointing week.
What about you? What did you make of Labor's performance this week?
Very amusing. No, look, I think this was a good week for the country and for the parliament, generally speaking. We managed to get a lot of legislation through the lower house. I don't know what the Senate's doing. No one ever does, really. And, and a lot of great things. Today we spoke on reforms to superannuation, protecting members' rights. We talked about reforms to Veterans Affairs and veterans' pensions. We've spoken this week about a whole range of matters that I think will, set the country up for the long term.
Well, so very gracious of you.
You have to go, don't you?
Yeah, no, but very gracious, not taking the free hit that I would have given you. But no, Jason Falinski, Patrick Orban, thank you for coming back after having to rush down to the house.
It's great to be here twice.
It's good for our Fitbits.